On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'll be speaking with Deb Washler and George Morrison from Artlink.
You definitely have to concentrate on what you're doing. I kind of think of throwing on the wheel as similar to riding a bike, you know.
Oh.
When you see somebody ride a bike for the first time, or when you do it for the first time, it seems so mysterious that this thing on two wheels can stand up. But once you do it, it
becomes natural.
That sense starts to stay with you.
And J.L. Nave from the Fort Wayne Philharmonic.
Board of Directors asking the board to go get a new or different conductor. Well, the current conductor found out about it and fired every musician who signed that petition. And so those 20 musicians plus the sympathetic board members got together and formed what is today the Fort Wayne Philharmonic.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hello, I'm Chuck O'Connor, and this is Arts Weekly. Joining me is Deb Washler, Executive Director of Artlink, and George Morrison, ceramic artist. They're both here to talk about the upcoming exhibition featuring clay and surface design. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, Deb, this has been an exciting last few weeks for you. Artlink just completed their first Artlink Visual Arts Award competition.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about the concept of the award and how it turned out.
Okay. The AVA Awards, as we affectionately call them, was a process where we had the nominations of 4 artists in 11 categories. So we had a total of 44 artists. And then the public had the opportunity to vote. We had over 1,000 ballots cast for those artists. And then last week we gave out the awards to the winners at a party. And George actually designed the award that they each received. So it was a sculpture. That's signed and numbered. And then United Art and Education was kind enough to give them some gift certificates for their store. So it was well received. I think the artists liked it. The party was a lot of fun. Possum Trot Orchestra played.
Great.
And we'll be doing it again next year.
And are these primarily Fort Wayne artists, Northeast Indiana? Who participated?
Northeast Indiana artists. Pretty much our regional range, we always say, is about 100 miles from Fort Wayne. So that's kind of the circle. The nominations were given by, like, Honeywell Center. They have a gallery down there, so they did some. Bluffton has an art center. They did some nominations. So we really tried to reach out to all the counties, and we hope as the awards keep going, we'll see more and more of those artists showing up in the AVA Awards.
Now, is this something that you've ever done before? I mean, it's distinct in a sense that oftentimes with juried shows or prizes, one brings in experts in the field, but really these are just regular folks who enjoy art voting on their favorite artists. Is that correct?
Yeah. Once the nominees are done, the nominees are done by art galleries, art professionals, folks that works with artists. But yeah, after that, it's just the public having the opportunity to really look at the work and vote.
Well, I'm sure they had a lot of good stuff to choose from because we have a lot of great artists here in Northeast Indiana. And so I know that up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, for instance, they have the giant art prize, where really it's turned out to be an international prize. It's sort of the similar thing where the general public gets to vote. Was that a bit of an inspiration for you on this?
A little bit, but part of it was Artlink needed a fundraiser. We're a nonprofit. We needed a fundraiser.
Yeah.
We did not want to ask artists to donate to us again. And so we were really trying to come up with a concept that we felt would honor artists, also eventually raise some money for Artlink, and just be a nice added addition to the community without making it a burden, really.
And so how can the public see the winners of our best artists?
We have the artist winners on our website, and then we still have the online gallery. So you can see all the nominees still on that, but then you'll have the opportunity to see the winner's work.
Right, at artlinkfw.com.
Yes.
Well, good. Let's move on to your upcoming exhibit, which is the clay and surface exhibit, surface design exhibit. What's that exhibit all about? I mean, that's opening on March 4th.
Yes, the clay is ceramic pieces, so you know, ceramic and the surface design, which I think is the part that kind of throws people. It's works created from fabric. So it may include felting, quilts, embroidery. It's thread and fabric basically for that in those designs. So it's a compilation of those two medias.
Why'd you combine the two together? Are they
well,
similar? In a
They're similar in the sense that it's kind of arts and crafts. And when I say crafts, I mean a fine craft. So that's mostly why they're paired up. We also haven't featured either one of them in a while.
Oh, I see.
Because we serve so many mediums in a year, this one hadn't really, these two hadn't been focused on in some time.
Oh, I'm surprised to hear that because there's so many good clay artists
Exactly.
and so forth. And we have one with us, actually. Here, George Morrison. Welcome, George.
Glad to be here, Chuck.
To the show. And you're going to be featured. Your ceramics work is going to be featured in this exhibit coming up on March 4th.
I submitted 3 pieces for the show, yes.
You did. And tell us, how did you become inspired to work in clay as a medium?
Well, I did a little bit in college many years ago and was able to get back into it, which I'd always wanted to do when Charlie Cummings had his studio here. It was an easy way to get back into it. And since I retired a little over a year ago, I've kind of turned it into a full-time vocation and just enjoying every minute of it. Lots of opportunities in Fort Wayne to get feedback and to share ideas. Artlink is one of the key elements out there to help to make that happen. So I've just been experimenting with different processes and going in several different directions, and just whatever direction seems fun at the time, I'll play with it for a while.
You mentioned that you've exhibited before at Artlink. And explain a little bit about what Artlink does for artists like you and what's your relationship and how it's been for you.
It's just really a great venue for local artists, and it's as a member, of course, there's a member show, which is easy to get into because you're a member, but then there's also other opportunities, venues like the Clay and Surface Design show, where you can place your work in comparison with other ceramic artists in the area, and gives you a nice opportunity to see how your work compares to other people's work and learn what directions other people are going. And there's in this region, there's just a really fairly tight group of ceramic people that communicate pretty regularly, and it's a very supporting environment. Ceramic artists are very sharing with ideas, and if you have a problem, if you want to try a new technique, there's always people out there that love to sit down with you and teach you something new.
Right. And your background is actually, you were an architect for many years in town. You have your own architecture firm here. What are the similarities, and how does being an architect inform your work as a ceramicist?
I think it's tremendously similar because you're dealing with form and structure and the nature of a material. The main difference between working with clay directly and when working with designing buildings is that it's more intimate. I mean, when you're designing a building, you're working on a computer or with a pencil. But you're never doing the actual building. Well, with the clay, that sort of intermediate step is gone, and you're literally getting your hands dirty in the thing that you're making. And I really enjoy that, the tactile aspect of it. And a lot of my work is very much influenced by architecture and by people like Frank Gehry and Lou Kahn and people like that. So I bring some of that to the work, but I also try to break away from that sometimes and do some things that are just kind of whimsical and just things that are like, I would compare it to Jackson Pollock splashing paint on a canvas. To do that sort of thing with clay, just make it squoosh and mold and twist and just let the clay do what it wants to do.
And we're actually looking at some of those images up on the screen.
Right.
Very, very sleek. I see a little bit of the architectural influence, but I also see almost a strong Japanese, almost Zen-like, Zen garden-like influence. Is that true? Is that intentional?
It's not intentional, but you've mentioned that today, and I've had some other people recently throw out the word Zen-like, which, the more I think about it, I guess I kind of like that for some of the pieces.
Well, there just seems to be a real cool simplicity to the lines.
I do like, one of my goals in some of the pieces is a pure simplicity, especially some of the spherical pieces, just to study a very pure form and treat it in a variety of different ways. And that's in very much in opposition to the pieces that I've been extruding that are just, again, kind of whimsical and just letting the clay do what it wants to do.
You know, clay, working with clay just seems like it's so, it's really one of the earliest things that I think humans have worked with. You know, and in many ways it's very telling or very reflective of human evolution. I mean, at one time they made pots, and eventually somebody made a pot and said, but my pot also looks good.
Right.
You know, and so
and my
it's kind
pot
of
has a
that
handle.
next
and my
step in
pot-
aesthetics. And of course, now we have ceramics where they don't have to have any particular function whatsoever.
Certainly.
It's an art form in and of itself. Is that kind of where you're heading, or are you still throwing pots? And
Oh, I
stuff?
still do functional work
Okay.
as well. Yeah. I go back and forth. If I work on something for a while, I kind of feel like I'm stalling, or I've taken this as far as I really feel like I want to take it, then I'll just try to do something completely different.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth. I do, you know, I throw on the wheel and do some functional work, but I really find that I enjoy more kind of pushing the limits of what the clay will do in different directions.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you know, somebody else that does that is Joe Pelka, who is another artist here in the area. And Artlink hosts a very, very interesting series of exhibits where you actually go to the studio. It's called the, what's it, Artist Walkthrough?
Artist Studio Visit.
Artist Studio Visit. Tell us a little bit about this upcoming visit to Joe Pelka's studio.
Okay, well, Joe Pelka is also featured in this exhibit, and he also has a studio here in town. So what we're doing is on March 11th, we are taking the public into his studio. So it's a great opportunity to see how a ceramic artist works, and you can also enjoy some nice hors d'oeuvres in the little cash bar as well, you know, while you're there. But it's really just an introduction, you know, an introduction of the art patron to the artist, and that's what the series is designed to do.
And that's actually going to be on March 11th.
That'll be on March 11th, yes.
Right. Yeah. And so how does the public do that? They contact you and
Yes, just give us a call at Artlink and we'll set them up with the tickets. It's a very low cost for those. It's $5 for members and $10 for the public. So
yeah, I think people are always intrigued to find, to look into how the artistic creative process, and this is really a great opportunity. You've done quite a number of these.
yes, this is about the 6th one we've done, and it's a very small, intimate setting, so people have the opportunity to talk with the artist and really learn more about it.
George, as a ceramicist, one final question. As a ceramicist, it seems to me it must take a lot of focus. I mean, I tried throwing clay at a wheel and kind of went off to the side. And
Right.
but doesn't it take a lot of concentration, and you have to almost get into sort of a state of high, intense focus?
I wouldn't say intense, but it's you definitely have to concentrate on what you're doing. I kind of think of throwing on the wheel as similar to riding a bike. You know,
Oh.
when you see somebody ride a bike for the first time, or when you do it for the first time, it seems so mysterious that this thing on 2 wheels can stand up. But once you do it,
It becomes natural.
that sense starts to stay with you.
I see.
And then from that point, you just perfect. You know, you start to do it better, hopefully, and lighter,
Well,
and thinner, and taller, and whatever.
And we get to see the results only, and not. But you know, it's a great event. If our audience hasn't made it to an opening night at Artlink, it's really a wonderful evening,
is
and
a
that's
lot of
going to
fun.
be again on March 4th. From 6 to 9
So 6 to 9, yeah.
at Artlink, and if anybody has any questions, they just give you guys a call, and hopefully a lot of people will come out there to. You'll get a good turnout, and lots of people will see your work, George, as well as many
Right.
others. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
For information about Artlink and the Clay and Surface Design Exhibition, or how you can sign up to attend the gallery walkthrough event, go to artlinkfw.com or visit the gallery in person at 437 East Berry Street in Fort Wayne. Arts Weekly will return in a moment.